All right. Well, good morning, everybody. Nice to see you. And I see there's a whole bunch of traffic out of my window, so maybe some people had some little bit of difficulty getting to where they need to get to the computer. But welcome to our session today. I want to thank Michelle for spearheading this and setting it up for us. And so on that note, Michelle, maybe you can start in and we'll get this going.
For sure. Everyone can hear me?
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you. So good morning. Thank you for joining us for our Agent Success Reboot event. The purpose of this was just to really re-energize our executives heading into the fall market. I know my energy can kind of drop when I start to see those leaves falling, and I want to carry that summer energy into the fall. Today, we'll be having a motivational speaker, my very good friend, Maya. Known her for a very long time and have seen her really just strive for entrepreneurship and really just tackling all those successes she wanted. And she is a children's book author now, Sunny's Big Game. So congratulations, Maya. After Maya, we're going to have our Realty Executives Plus digital marketing specialist, Jake. And then we'll hear from our regional developer, Scott Gilmore. So let me just get right into it with Maya, our first speaker. Maya is the CEO of Impact Learning, a company she created out of her passion for teaching and learning about the impacts of different types of learning techniques. As a teacher, Maya knows the importance of continued education. With her Master's of Education in Curriculum and Pedagogy behind her, Maya is currently getting her doctorate in Education in Curriculum and Learning. As an entrepreneur and business owner, I know Maya shares in the obstacles of working for yourself, the ever-changing expectations of clients, and prioritizing time to unwind when you really could be working 24/7. So good morning, Maya.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks so much for inviting me here today, Michelle.
Yeah, it was so great. You know, I've seen you really just strive in entrepreneurship, and I'm so glad that we get to share in that.
Yeah, absolutely.
In our first conversation we had, I realized you have a lot of obstacles that I think our realtors have. Much like real estate, there are highs and lows in what you do. You have a big swing of clients, got a lot of work going on, and then you have a lull, and you're kind of looking for that work. So my first kind of question to you is, how do you stay motivated to reach your goals and strive for success when you might not have any projects on the go?
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess to start, to give a little bit of maybe background and context into kind of the work that I do. A lot of the work that I do is kind of consulting based. It's project based. Most of our projects are 4 to 6 months long, which means the school terms tend to kind of be what coincidentally follows. So we kind of get that rush in the winter, we get that rush in September. Summers tend to be here and there, and then the November, December time also tends to kind of slow down. So that's kind of what we're planning for now. So I'm definitely kind of going through that. So I think there's a few different ways of kind of staying motivated. One is I have a brain dump list of all the things that I want to do within my business that I don't have time to do. So it's kind of the idea of working in your business versus working on your business. So I always make time for the client work, but a lot of the time, the back end, the organization, the planning, the long-term stuff is what ends up being put to the wayside when I'm super busy. So that kind of those lulls are a perfect time to be working on that type of stuff. I've also found that taking the time to take a step back and look at where am I wanting to go. So I know for me this year, I've gone, okay, I have XYZ coming up. I have a really crazy November, December personally. So actually a quieter November, December is actually okay for me. And taking the time to kind of plan out. So I've stacked up my September, October to allow financially for November, December to be a little bit quieter because that's what works for me right now. So kind of keeping the big picture in mind has really helped me. And then keeping those little kind of things. I actually used to, I don't have it up anymore. I used to keep a like sticky note brainstorm wall. So literally any idea I ever had just went up on my wall, of whether it was social media ideas, whether it was ways to engage with clients, whether it was landing pages, whether it was like accounting, like anything I had that I was like, yeah, that's a good idea, but I need to come back to it. I would just post on my wall, and that kind of acted as like my brain dump. So that was really helpful. It also was really exciting to like, I'm a very visual tactile person, so I would love to like pull the sticky note off and move it to like my done pile or throw it in the garbage. And it was very satisfying to be able to be like, yeah, I did that. So I think that would be, yeah, one of my definitely kind of big ones is keeping an eye on the big picture so that you're kind of always know what you're working towards, what that next step is going to be.
I really like that idea with the sticky notes. That sounds so satisfying, just to throw it in the trash after.
Yeah, no, absolutely is.
So another thing we talked about when we chatted before was the ever-changing expectations of clients. You had told me a quick story about a client you had who you did great work for his class and his curriculum, and about 10 minutes before the class started, he wanted all these big changes ready in 10 minutes. That is frustrating.
Yeah.
So how do you stay professional and really engaged when these expectations come up, and clients might get a little bit frustrated with you or just what's going on?
Yeah, absolutely. So I definitely, there's a few different kind of ways I approach that. One, now having been in business almost 2 years, I've learned that I need to interview my potential clients as much as they need to interview me when they're choosing to work with me. And I think learning that it is a mutual relationship and we have to both want it and both like each other for it to work has been really important. Because at the end of the day, you're going to be talking to these people probably almost daily for an extended period of time. So making sure now I've learned that there needs to be that process, that there is that mutual kind of relationship, respect, and kind of understanding that they are bringing me or you in because you're an expert in what you do. If they were the expert, they would do it by themselves. So sometimes realizing that that relationship has to have that respect, that they need your help. So that's been one, taking me a lot of time to kind of understand, but that's definitely one. Also, and in the example you gave, that same client who I'm still working with, it is knowing that the relationship does have a timeline. So for me, I know that that contract expires in October and I don't have to renew it. I don't have to work with that person again. So just being mindful that I'm able to kind of choose. And I guess that's part of being an entrepreneur that a lot of people talk about, is that, you know, you get to choose who you work with. And yes and no, because obviously at the end of the day, you also have bills to pay. You have a team to pay. You have, like, there are things that need to be done. But to some extent, kind of being able to choose and go, in my case, I can go, you know what, that's been a great relationship. I'd rather it end on a high and leave it nicely and leave it cleanly, and move on. And then if something comes up in the future, maybe it works out again. But for me, the 10 minutes before, when I have a million other projects to do, just doesn't work. They're not the only person I work for. So that's definitely one. And then I think just for me, like, I'm type A, clearly, with my sticky note wall. So everything I do is like written down. I keep a list of the projects I'm currently working on, so that I'm kind of, if I'm ever like, okay, I'm overwhelmed, I don't know what to do, I have my list of like, okay, who do I check in with? What projects do I check in with? And making sure that I'm able to kind of divide up my time in a way that makes sense. My calendar is all color coded and color blocked, so I know where I need to be when. So I think finding all of the little strategies that work for you so that you can divide up your time between 10 different clients with, you know, open houses and showings and all those different things, so that everyone is getting kind of the best version of you.
That's so true. The best version of you is one that you need to work on first. You can't just present it to someone, especially 10 minutes before a class.
Yeah, exactly.
So like I said, as long as I've known you, you've been an entrepreneur. And with various passion projects. And I've loved all of them, but I know that not all of them have been as successful as you would like them or successful. So that can really mentally take a toll, get you a little bit down. How do you recover from that kind of non-success or the not getting what you want out of a project?
Absolutely. I think the biggest thing for me has been realizing that everything is a learning experience. And I say the same thing with friendships, with romantic relationships, with jobs, with like everything. It's like, that might not have worked out, but what did you take away from it? And that's been something I've had to learn within my business, even with, I've had clients in projects that have come through that I'm like, oh my gosh, that's a huge project. That would be, I would love, to see that those numbers come into my bank account, right? Like that would be fantastic. And halfway through, it falls apart because it wasn't working. And it's like, okay, that sucks. But like, what did I learn from it? So I've had to do that a lot. Like you mentioned, I've had kind of smaller projects and businesses along the way. And I think for me, it was a matter of looking at it and going, what was I hoping to get from it? And did I get that? So, my kind of one of my previous businesses, I didn't look at it as a full-time job. I looked at it as a passion project. I looked at it as something I did to supplement something I did because I loved it. And when COVID kind of killed that, it was like, okay, I got what I wanted. I learned a ton. I had a lot of fun. I was able to hire great people. I was able to interact with like awesome like schools and families, and on to the next. But then I approached this business coming in saying, this is going to be my full-time job one day. And it took me 6 months to get there. So I think changing my approach helped, but then also even today, if something were to happen and my business ended, like I've learned so much that I can't look at it as a failure. It would more so be just like, it was a stepping stone to whatever would come next.
That's so true. Everything is really education.
Yeah.
You're also in a career, much like real estate, where with technology and everything, you could be working 24/7. You're your own boss, you have your clients, and there's no intermediary. So with that, how important is it to take time to disconnect from this technology that could keep you working?
It took me a long time to realize the importance of that. And I think I am lucky that I'm one of those people that like come 5 o'clock, generally my brain starts to shut off. Like I'm not the type of person who wants to go back to work after eating dinner. Does it happen? Absolutely. But for me, it's kind of rare. But there's been days in the past, especially if I think to like this time last year, where I would work 12, 13, 14 hours for weeks on end, just because there was that much work to be done. So I think there's kind of 2 ways to approach that. One is kind of the how to disconnect, how to separate work life, but then also knowing your capacity for work. So knowing kind of what things you do and don't want to do, what things, in my case, can I outsource? So I've got a team of people that help me. I, a few months ago, brought on a social media manager to create my content. And I've always, like, oh, but I want to do it. Like, yes, but at the end of the day, I can't do everything. I might want to do it, but I don't need to do it, and I can afford not to do it. So who can I hire to help me? So I hired a social media manager. I brought co-op students on to assist with certain things. So I think finding those places where it doesn't have to necessarily be you has been really helpful in allowing me to disconnect, because that way I'm not sitting and going, oh no, I need to make a client proposal. I need to create a new graphic for social media. I can just say, hey, can you do this? And it's really nice to be able to disconnect in that way. I'm like, before we got on here, I was writing out my like plan for the day. I'm like a digital planner and a paper planner. And that's my way of being like, okay, these are the big picture things. but what has to be done today goes on my list. So breaking it down into kind of bite-sized pieces, being realistic of what you can actually do. So I've had days, especially in the summer, this tends to happen a little bit more, but it'll be 2 o'clock and I'll be done. And I go, you know what? I'm not going to find work to do because there's always going to be work to do. I'm done what I said I would do today. So I'm just gonna, step back. For me, I can just go and bugger off my computer. It's not always the case for everyone. But then that's a great time to like do something a little bit more that you want to. So that talking about kind of, we talked about earlier, working in your business versus working on your business. So maybe that's a time that you want to strategize something. Maybe that's the time to update your website. Maybe there's something you can do that's, in my case, the creative stuff is what I find fun. Might not be the case for everyone. But if there's something you can do that's actually going to enhance your business kind of from the outside in, I like to use that time to work on that. I'm trying to think if there's anything. I think that's it.
Yeah, my only follow-up question to that is, I know for me, when I have those long lists of, I think I have to do everything today and everything needs to be done. And sometimes it does, especially after a long weekend where I've maybe turned off my laptop. And when you disconnect like that, do you ever feel guilty or anxious that someone might need your help or something
Absolutely.
is way more important than it might actually be?
All the time. And I'm bad because like I still have my phone on me, so I can still check emails and things, but I still feel really nice stepping away from the computer at least. And a lot of the time, like at least knowing, okay, someone needs this by Friday. I'm like, okay, great. I know that now. Tomorrow morning I can address it. I still haven't quite got the whole like, don't check your emails over the weekend or at night. I'm still not there. But I like to kind of just know what's going on. And I find that actually puts my mind at ease, knowing, hey, this person does need me, but it's not important, so I can do it tomorrow. So kind of keeping that perspective has helped me in that, if it's an emergency, they'll get in contact with me.
Yeah. And I was just going to say, like you said, it kind of puts your mind at ease. So I know for me, I'm definitely like that list person. If anyone has ever seen me in the office, I have 3 or 4 lists going at the same time. But I know for me, taking a break and stepping back and saying, okay, this needs to get done today, but this is not till Friday and today's Monday.
Yeah.
It's done wonders for my mental and physical health.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I was just going to say, have you kind of found the same thing?
Yeah. So once I've tried a few strategies to kind of help with that too. So I just type A brain. I color code my planner. So it's all related to like whether it's personal, work, whatnot. So it's all kind of color coded. But I've tried in the past to do it more so based on like a priority color code. So I go, okay, these are the 3 things that need to get done today. These are the 3 things I'd like to get done today. Which has been helpful. I know I've seen, social media videos and there's tons of different like ways people to go about that. But that's been a good one. It's like you have a meeting at 10 o'clock, you have to have that meeting at 10 o'clock. But do you have to, I don't know, I'm trying to think of a good example. Like, do you have to make sure your inbox is at 0 by the end of the day? Maybe not. I didn't want to use my name, but I could not think of a name. I had this idea and I was like, I'm just going to go with it. Within a few months, I was hiring a team, and it wasn't until, honestly, I saw someone put on their LinkedIn that they worked at Maya Sager Consulting, and I thought it was the weirdest thing ever. So I was like, I need a new business name. That wasn't me. But in doing that, I had started to develop a personal brand under kind of the consulting company. So I think having that was really great. I've explored, having a professional social media versus a personal. I have a professional website now. And I think in the industry I'm in kind of the real estate industry, you're known for your name. So having that identity that people can see and recognize is everything. So I think finding, whether that's working with people here, whether it's working, just learning on your own, a lot of, especially in the early stages, I just would usually like peruse social media because you can find a lot of great stuff on there. And I would just explore, see what I liked, see what I didn't like. I had Pinterest boards of like color schemes that I liked. And then eventually I was able to use those to inspire, you know, what colors my brand was going to be. And I think recognizing the purpose of your brand, which when you're trying to have a career that's made off of your name, it's a lot easier because you're like, my brand is my business. So whether that's, you know, the colors on your website, the colors on your business cards, we often think about these kind of surface level things, but taking it even deeper, especially in kind of businesses that are face to face, like you've maybe got portfolio, like folders, maybe you have a personal logo, you know, embroidered onto your briefcase. Maybe your next photo shoot, you're incorporating those colors in the clothes you're wearing or the background, the location. It's not always, our personal brand is not just the colors and the logo. And I think that's what a lot of people get wrapped up in, but it's really kind of your voice, who you are. Are you kind of, do you come across as a, you know, fun, exciting go-getter, or are you that, you know, sharp, strict, gets work done, it's great, and there's no funny business? They're both great, but you need to choose who you want to be, and your color, your voice, your pictures, that's all going to reflect kind of that voice. So for me, it's been having a personal brand has been really important because I do wear many hats. So it's not just Maya under Impact Learning, because that's only for me one part of my identity. Whereas my personal brand has allowed me to kind of encapsulate my you know, my business, my education, and kind of all those other parts of me that kind of fall under, you know, my umbrella of 5 million things that I always seem to be doing. But I think it's really important, and I really cool. I got to a point that I was actually able to invest in working with someone professionally who does personal branding, which was so cool to be able to hand it off, because I'm sure some of you are like myself, where if we do it ourselves, it's fine, but we're a lot more critical when we do it ourselves. So being able to kind of talk to someone else and say, hey, what do you think? This is what I'm liking, but what, you know, bringing in that professional. For in so many situations, we are the professional that gets brought in. So it's really nice to talk to someone else who can actually take your ideas and turn it into something better than you could have even imagined. So yeah, I would highly recommend that if you have the resources, and it sounds like Jake is going to talk about that next and some of the resources that you have available. I think that's an incredible opportunity to be able to really build a brand and a kind of persona that you are happy, confident, and proud to show off.
Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me today and share
absolutely.
all of this with us. I think it's been great. Before we move on to Jake, I just want to let anyone know that they can ask Maya any questions or share anything. Okay, so moving on, we have the next speaker, Jake Hernandez. Jake is a digital marketing specialist who you can thank for the amazing graphics on all the Realty Executives Plus social media pages and the website. 6 years ago, Jake came to work for Realty Executives Plus after graduating from Sheridan College in marketing. And we could not be more grateful for his dedication to promoting the Realty Executives brand and sharing his knowledge of digital marketing with our executives. Today, Jake will be talking about the importance of having an active social media presence for realtors with a focus on Facebook and Instagram. He'll be talking about content creation and scheduling, and he's going to touch upon using social media to run successful ad campaigns, as he's done for our apprentice program. So welcome, Jake. Thank you for joining us today.
Hello. Sorry. I had an introduction, but Michelle did a great job at introducing me, so I'm going to skip that. So throughout these 6 years that I've been working for Realty Executives, I've had the opportunity to work with many brokers and many different agents. And that has given me a lot of insight into what real estate agents are really strong on and what they're weak on in social media. So I was going to do a whole presentation about how to run an ad and how to do something, you know, like really how to design these ads to be really successful. But as I was creating this presentation, I decided to switch the attention to something that gets looked over, and that is content creation. And when, the direction, when people click on your ad, what they see when they click on your ad and what they look for, right? So I worked on many different levels of digital marketing, and I worked in traditional marketing as well. And traditional marketing is great because it gives you the opportunity to just be out there and let people know your name, who you work for, and what you can do for them, right? But once people know your name, the number one thing people do now is they look you up on Google, or they open up Instagram and they type in your name, or they go on Facebook and type in your name, or whatever platform they use to get their information, right? And this is the biggest weakness that I found that real estate agents have. It's their online presence. So most of the posts that I see from real estate agents are just listings and stats, and but they never add that personal touch to their posts. So I can go on many real estate profiles, which is what I did before going on here. And yeah, that's all I saw. Like, they just give me the same stats, they give me the same information, they give me their listings, but they don't really tell me about themselves. And I think that's the opportunity that they're missing out on when they run their ads, right? So to have a strong ad, you also have to have a strong social media presence to be successful. If you want to be organic, if you want to grow on social media, and if you want to connect traditional marketing with your online presence. Now, I'm not saying that posting listings is bad. It's just don't make it look like a flyer, right? When they open up your Instagram, they want to know about you. So if you're posting stats, just make sure that you're adding your own point of view about these stats, what you have to say about the current market. They want to know your opinion, even if it's just short. They want to know your opinion and what you're thinking. But there's other types of posts that that I don't usually see in real estate pages. Now, there's two different kinds of pages, and I made multiple mistakes while working with agents. There's brand pages where it's like Realty executives, where I get to post information towards agents, and I don't have to be personal about it. It's just information, and people just look for Realty executives to get information. And this is mainly for agents, for real estate agents. But then there's your personal page. So when I used to get hired to run personal pages, I used to make the mistake to run them like if they were a regular brand. And I found that that made a disconnection between the personality and the brand. So what I would recommend, I actually have an example that I made. I'm gonna share a screen share, Michelle. Where is this?
You should be able to share, Jake. I set it up that you could share.
Yeah, it's just I'm not sure which one it is. I have multiple pages open. Okay, one sec. I think it's this one. There you go. Okay, here we go. Okay, perfect. Okay. So I made this example, right? Where I can just post about myself, right? And it could just be a picture of yourself. In this example, it's me wearing a helmet. And you have the option to just add whatever caption you want. And people usually just go for a motivational quote, a line from a song that they like, or an emoji. But they're missing out on a great opportunity to let people know like about yourself. So it doesn't have to be like a bio, right? But it could be a story where you have the opportunity to connect with the people that are clicking on your ad, and now they're seeing your profile. So now they can learn a little bit about who you are and what you do and what you could do for them. So instead of just having a quote, you could tell a little bit a story, right? So in this example, I'm climbing these tree trunks and I'm telling a story about like what was going on in my mind about how I was climbing these tree trunks, and I had my helmet on and I was smiling, but in reality I was kind of scared because I had to go up these really high trunks and I had to get to the top of the hill. And if I didn't get to the top of the hill, I'd be holding everybody back, and everybody paid for this tour. And, you know, like I had no option, I had to go up. So I tell a little bit about the story of what was going in my mind, the situation, right? And this will engage, right? This will get people to read and learn about it, a little bit about me. And then this is your opportunity to hook them in and then tell them about what you do. So you have to, what I do is I tie the story to what I do for a living and kind of connect those dots, right? So if I'm here I am, like, you know, struggling to get to the top of this hill, and then I connected it to an experience I had in my career, right? And I kind of made it to like if I was a real estate agent from this point of view. So in the struggles of becoming a real estate agent and what I had to go through and how I can understand the difficulties of making hard decisions for customers or for clients that are going to buy a house or going to sell their house. That is a really tough decision. So I use that angle to tell my story. So I tell my story, and at the end, I kind of connect those dots. Now you made a connection, you made it relatable, you made it likable. So not only are you going to get a like, but you might get a follower and you might get a lead. Now, I would recommend these posts to have on everybody's Instagram, instead of just having a bio of saying, hi, my name is Jake, and, you know, like doing what I was going to do at the beginning of this presentation, tell you guys a little bit more about exactly what I do. You could do it through a story, which is easier to consume, easier to digest, and people will remember that story. It just makes it easier to remember because it makes it relatable. Relatable content is the most effective content on social media. Highly effective. So the structure of this post, I dissected it, is you have the visual, which is the bait. It doesn't have to be a great picture. And this is the conversation I have with agents. Agents usually tell me is like, what type of content should I post? I don't know how to create content. I don't know what to share. What do I type? They're usually very shy about posting, right? And this is when I tell them is like, you just share a picture of yourself doing something that you like and just talk about it, right? But it was really vague. I didn't really go into depth about telling them exactly what they had to be done. So I thought this was a perfect opportunity to talk about what I do and what I recommend. So you have the picture, which is the bait, which is just me in a helmet. And like I said, I could have just left it like that and just put a caption, motivational caption, and that's it. And people see my picture, they give it a like, and they keep scrolling. But when I add the story, now as they continue scrolling, they see that I told the story. Now, for the people that know me, they just might keep scrolling because they already know me, they already know the story. But if I made an ad, an Instagram ad or a Facebook ad, and they don't know anything about me, and they click on my page and they go on my Instagram, they want to know about me. They want to know why they saw this ad and why they should work with me, or, you know, like they just want to know who I am. So this is a perfect opportunity to tell them that story and kind of make them feel like they can relate to you in a bit, because people see agents as, you know, like usually people try to stay away from agents. So this is a perfect opportunity to make them see that you're human. And I've seen this because I've created so many ads, and the type of comments that I see people leaving on the comment section, they're just terrible. So your Instagram page, your social media pages is a great way to like kind of like get over that barrier between you and the person that you're targeting. So you have the bait, which is the picture, which is what will get people to look at. It'll make them stop. Then you have your story, which is the hook. They're going to read the story. They're going to see if they can relate, learn a little bit more about you. And then you have the call to action, where you can direct them to either your website, your landing pages, tell them more about what you do, your services. And yeah, that's how you reel them in, right? Now, one post is not going to work. You have to have multiple posts. And I'm not saying that every post should be like this. I just kind of want you to have the idea of what the structure is like when building these posts. So something that I do that Maya touched up on is the brain dump, where I have a list of all the different post ideas that I have. And then I try to like attach pictures to it. So if I have an idea of like the market stats, I just don't want to put a picture of like, these are the numbers. I try to find a picture that I kind of relate to the stats or like what I think. And then I kind of attach it there. So, and then I write my caption on it, but I try to follow this structure. So I have my picture, I have the hook, and then I have the call to action in every single post. And you have to be consistent. Social media is about consistency, and not that you don't have to post every single day, but a minimum 3 to 4 posts a week. Michelle asked me if I could talk about a little bit more about when to post. And this varies. This varies depending on your audience. So you have to truly know who you're targeting, and you try to imagine. Actually, Instagram Insights let you know exactly when your audience is most active on your pages. So if you go on Instagram Insights, if you have a professional page, you can see when you're getting the most amount of likes or engagement. So it'll tell you like during the hours between 12 and 3 or 7, 9, you know. I found that in real estate pages, it's usually really early in the morning, between 6 to 8, I guess before people go to work. And then right after 3 p.m. to like 9 p.m. is when we get the most amount of engagement on our pages. But yeah, I just wanted to heavily focus on content that it's not so hard, it's not complicated. You just have to organize it, do that brain dump. You don't have to do it in a day. I usually just do it like every Monday. I sit down, I write my ideas, and then I start attaching content to those ideas and try to find a way to like make it relatable. Like I said, this is for personal pages. For brands, it's very direct and doesn't have to be personal. You don't have to tell stories. People just want information, direct information. But when they're looking at you as a person, they want to know stories. They want to know about who you are. And yeah, this is how you create content for it. Every picture has a story. I'm pretty sure you could find any picture on your phone, find even the smallest story, and try to twist it in a way that switches to your business and, you know, gets them to pay more attention to you. But yeah, it's not really that complicated. I also want to talk about like the tools that I use to create this content and how I keep everything organized. And the number one tool that I use is Canva. I create most of the content in Canva because it's easy to use. It's very simple. They know exactly what they're doing. They offer all the tools that you need to create content. They even offer you a calendar where you could type in your ideas on each day of the month, and then you can start creating posts and start attaching them to each day. That way you don't have to, everything is done for you, right? Like everything stays organized. And if you link your social media accounts to Canva, they will post them for you. So you don't even have to worry about, oh, I have to post this on Monday, I have to post this on Tuesday. You can just dedicate a day or a morning to doing all your brain dump, try to create content, and start scheduling every single post.
What's the cost?
So Canva is free. It's free at the beginning, but if you want to start using some other features, I have the business suite, so I think it's one of the most pricey ones. I think I pay about $30 a month. But they have different plans.
The step above
they have different
free. Sorry to interrupt. The step above the free is $16.99.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So they have different plans, and you can take a look at what they offer and which one is best for you. But I highly recommend Canva. I have Trello too. That's where I also organize my ideas. I work with different brands, so I use Trello to have, like, it's more visual, right? You can see every single thing like stacked up. So I use Trello for that, mainly just for ideas. And Canva, I use it for content. Link in bio, I think it's something that everybody should have. If you have different ways to direct your, for example, I'm going to give you what link in bio is a link that you, if you click on it, it'll open up like a tree. And it'll give you all the different landing pages that you have available for your clients, right? Or for the people that are following. So when you click on the Realty Executives link in bio, it'll open up our blog, it'll open up our website, it'll open up our Facebook page, and all the other like apprenticeship program, all the other different things that we have. And then another great thing that people miss out on is when they're trying to find out how to create content. And this is something that I do a lot, is if your company website has a blog, like a blog page, it's full of content, full of content. Go on your the company website, so Realty Executives, go on the blog section, and you will see all this information that is out there for you, and you just turn that into a post. So if I'll be like, let me give you an example. So on Realty Executives, the latest post that I made was knowing your neighborhood, how to know your neighborhood. So it was this really long blog about apps that you can use to get to know your neighborhood. And what I did is I didn't use the whole blog. I grabbed 2 apps that I liked, and then I just turned that into a post. So oops, I think it's because I have the blurred. So I made the visual. Sorry, I have the blurred camera, so that's why you can't see it. But I made the visual, and then I just talked about a little bit about the apps, and I grabbed all that information from the website. And then I just I didn't have to give my opinion on this because it was it's a brand, right? So it's just direct information. But if I had posted this on my personal page, I would have given my personal like experience using these apps. And that's what people are looking for. But yeah, you have so much content available for you. It could be personal, like your own pictures, use Canva to create content, use that brain dump. And the tools that I use the most is the company website to create content for Realty Executives, because it's just there, and I just try to convert it into an easier format for people to consume on social media. And yeah, and we can talk about ads, but that takes a way longer time. I do want to do another session some other time, either in person or through here, where I talk about the ads, Facebook and Instagram ads, and now how we can connect them to Prime Agent now. So whatever leads you have on Facebook, you can now upload them directly to Prime Agent. You don't have to do that whole process of downloading them or uploading them. It does it automatically for you. Prime Agent offers that feature. But yeah, that's mainly what I wanted to talk about. I wanted to talk about content creation and how it doesn't have to be complicated, and most importantly, the structure of it, and just keep it simple. I know I made the story really long in my caption. People do read long stories if the story is good, but I just wanted I wanted you to get an idea of how to structure these posts, because I always tell people, you know, it just pick a picture and tell a story about it. But then I look at their post and it has nothing to do with what I told them to do. So I wanted to give like a perfect example of what it should be like.
Very
Thank
good.
you.
And yeah, if you have any other questions regarding apps, I just gave you guys the main apps that I use. I do use more other tools, but these are the tools that I think you don't need anything. Like if it was my opinion, you just need Canva. Canva, that's all you need. If you've never created content like for a month, you know, like monthly planning for content, just use Canva. Keep it simple. Oh, another thing that is just, you don't have to just post pictures and write a story on your caption. if you wanna use the trends that are going on social media to get the most views, to get the most exposure, to get the most impressions. So if you are not comfortable with posting a picture and typing something, if you're not good at like storytelling like that, you can just do a video and post it on your reels. Instagram offers you all the tools to edit your videos. It has automatic captions where it just adds the captions of whatever you're saying right there. And then you can add, GIFs, you can make it funny, you could add whatever you want on right there on the Instagram app. That's all you need. And yeah, if that makes it easier for you to tell your story or to do posts, video format is another great way to do it.
I know I've been able to sit down with a couple of our executives, and I'd love to be able to sit down with everybody to kind of go through how to use these apps. It does take, maybe an afternoon if I sit one-on-one with an executive and we go through all the apps and how to use it. And, you can just send me an email, give me a call if that's something that you would want to do. I'm happy to do it through Zoom, share my screen. The other thing I wanted to talk about was the ads going into Prime Agent. Now, if I can bother Bunny for 2 seconds, how is that going? I know we're doing it with the apprentice program. How are you finding the connection with the Facebook ads leading into Prime Agent? Is it easy?
Yeah, I don't do anything. They just come. So I think I love it, because before it went to Prime Agent, they would come in and Jake would have to send them to me through like a spreadsheet. And then I would then take them and then copy them into Prime Agent. So the fact that they just go straight into Prime Agent where I can keep track of them, love it. Yeah, so I think it's saving both Jake and I a couple of steps. So it's great.
Yeah, so I'd love to get to that more when we have our ad session with Jake. So we'll definitely
for sure. That would be a way longer session because there are multiple steps involved in this. But once it's set up, it's super easy.
Super easy.
Jake,
like I said, super easy for me.
Yeah, Jake, just maybe explain sort of the steps. Don't go into detail as much. And if anybody, after you tell them the steps, maybe someone, if they are familiar with it and want to do it, they could reach out to you and Michelle to do a one-on-one session, but just maybe give the steps on how that works. Just how is it done?
So, so once you have a Facebook ad that's actively running, what you want to do is you have to have a Zapier account. I think that's how it's pronounced, and a Zillow account. Once you have those two accounts, you link them together. There is an option in the settings to link your Zapier and Zillow. And once you link them together, they will ask you in Zapier, it will ask you what you want to link. So it's just kind of have a visual. So it's Zapier, Zillow, and Facebook. So Facebook sends information to Zillow, and Zillow sends information to Zapier. And Zapier, they call them Zaps. They zap your information to your Prime Agent. So yeah, once you have your Facebook running, and whenever you have a lead, Zillow will get that information. You'll grant it permission, and it'll send it to Zapier, and Zapier will you kind of create like these automatic actions where like whenever I get a new lead, I want you to send it to Prime Agent. You can have these leads directed to anywhere you want, where anywhere you want that's associated with what's it called? Zillow has these partners, right? So Prime Agent is one of them. So you can link them to any of their partners. But yeah, once you have your Facebook ads running, you give permission for Zillow to withdraw that information. And then you give permission to Zapier to create Zaps based on what Zillow is receiving up to your Prime Agent. So it's like a chain that you have to.
Why does it have to go through Zillow? They're our competition. Like, why doesn't it just go? Why are we giving that to Zillow?
It's just I got this information from Prime Agent actually, and you just have to. It just kind of draws their information from there. I think it's it's just it's been the only way I've found that works. but yeah, I don't really know why it has to go through Zillow, but that's the way Prime Agent has it set up.
Yeah, Zillow is actually, they have a couple different technology platforms, and one of them is information aggregate. And so that platform has the majority of information of consumers. So they found that using that platform just for gathering the information and formatting it to be able to load right into Prime Agent is the reason that's not the real estate platform side. It's just their tech side.
I just try and avoid supporting them as much as
Yeah.
possible. So it doesn't make sense to me. Okay, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah.
No, yeah. So once you have so you create a chain, and once the chain is working, whenever you get a Facebook lead, it goes automatically to your Prime Agent, and you can like format the form. So whatever questions you're asking on Facebook, you just match them to whatever Prime Agent has available, and they'll just be right there for you.
Yeah, and then in Prime Agent, the idea in Prime Agent is you can then take that information directly and set up automatic drip campaigns that are in Prime Agent. So everything gets automated. So instead of doing a 2 or 3 step process, you now have, the ability is that it goes right into Prime Agent. You allocate them to a certain program that you want to put them on, and it will automatically, you can put reminders in to contact these people. So it really syncs the database and your leads together. And I know it's way more in depth. I know it's way more in depth than how to set it up, but I just thought I'd get, it'd be good to have Jake do an overview, because it is an added feature that you all can use in Prime Agent.
Yeah, and once you set up these accounts, and you want to create like other zaps to get more, like if you have different forms, you don't have to go through all the process again. It's a one-time process. And once you have these accounts set up, you can just create zaps and have different leads like be fed to different, the CRM systems.
Okay.
Before we kind of get into our market update, does anyone have any questions for Jake?
Good.
Okay, I think we're good. Thank you so much, Jake, for sharing and kind of walking through everything. I know it's helped me. I've written all of that stuff down. But yeah, just thank you for taking the time and being available for our executives. I think it's great what you do, and I know it's really helpful.
Thank you. No problem. And yeah, like we should have another session of talking about like this more in depth, like Zapier and how everything works for Facebook ads. And there's been a lot of new updates on Facebook that you guys should know about. So,
And
but yeah, that's it.
Yeah, thank you, Jake. And just in case anybody did not look at the chat, Brendan also said that you can do video in Canva as well. I think Brendan, you do some video through Canva.
Yeah, I find video sales letters are good for lead generation. And on average, I mean, I'll be definitely joining the ad one that Jake hosts, so I'm not going to waste too much of anybody's time, but on average it takes somebody 7 times to see an advertisement, the same person, before they're even gonna and I see a lot of people, a lot of inexperienced, I mean, not that I'm overly experienced, I am with digital marketing but not with real estate, but you see call now or message. You want to use web clicks. For one, it generates web traffic, and for two, it's the biggest purchase, or selling your home is the biggest decision of your life. Nobody's just going to call you up after seeing your ad 1, 2, 3 times. I mean, you want to get them to the website. I have it go to my landing page with my bio so they can read more about me, and then our listings for my brokerage is just up at the top, so they can scroll up, look at my listings, other people's listings. And I find videos are more effective than just a graphic picture for advertisements.
Great, super.
Yeah, and actually, Canva just made huge updates last week on video. So they have a bunch of different tools and editing things that they offer for you guys. I don't know if they're free, but they are there. So
$16.99, and you can get
okay.
a few more advanced options.
Great. Okay, well, we'll add that topic to the next session, which is going to be basically on, the advertising side. I know Michelle will set that up with Jake, and we'll get that specific session set up. So the market. I guess that is the biggest question is, what's going on with the marketplace, and where do we see, or, depending on who you listen to or which expert or which economist, there are many different ideas on where this market is, where it's come from, and more importantly, where it's going. I'm going to give you an overview of a couple different things, going to share some graphs with you, going to share information from 25, a collaboration of 25 different boards on what stats are showing. We're also going to share with you, what Korea and their stats are showing, and going to give you an overview of a bit of history that you can understand where we are at. But the one thing that you have to understand, real estate has always been and always will be supply and demand. Okay, it'll always be supply and demand. So if we actually look at, and I'm going to share my screen with you just to give you an overview of where we are today. Everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So what we're looking at here is the medium sale price. Now this is every board that is on the ITSO board. So this excludes TREB, but it also follows TREB's same line. But these are 25 different boards across Ontario. Okay, so this is the information that is available if you are a member of any of the boards that are connected to ITSO, then you have the ability of these graphs. And so what I want to explain to everybody is if we look at the graphs and go from beginning of 2019, so pre-pandemic, and we look at where we are today, right up to the end of August. This shows your average sale price, okay? And if we actually look at it, it shows that across majority of Ontario, the average price from a year ago is still up 1.5%. which is in some cases surprising because we've heard about the market has adjusted 18, 20, 25% in certain areas. Now, depending on where you are in Ontario, that is different. And I'm going to talk about certain communities in a moment. But what I want really people to understand is if you look at the history prior to the marketplace where we were pre-COVID, so looking at 2019, we can see we had a nice steady marketplace. And for those that were in the market in realtors at 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019, those were very good years. You had to be working. You always have to be working, but those were years that if you're working, there was consistent sales, there were consistent buyers, there was consistent sellers. And then obviously we had, when COVID hit, then this is where we had a stall. And then from during the COVID period, we got up to where cheap money and low inventory. So high demand because of cheap money and low supply because there was just nobody, there was very few properties available, created this spike. And then obviously with the interest rate changes, then this is where we started to see this pullback or an adjustment. Now, please understand that throughout history of real estate, every time we have a spike in the marketplace, we always see a pullback. Okay, I've been doing this since 1980, and I've lived through 5 different spikes, and it always has been a pullback. The market is always still there, though, and I'm going to explain to you why it is still going to continue to be there. But if we look at right now what's happening, if we look just at the last few months, what has been taking place is we're starting to see where we're getting near where the, I'm not going to say the bottom, but we're now starting to see that the average pricing, median pricing is starting to change a little bit. Okay. And I expect we're going to see a much lower, instead of this steep line here, we're going to see more of a leveling off. Probably it's still a little bit of a decrease, but nothing that we're seeing like here. And one of the reasons is that looking at inventory. Okay, so this is new listings coming into the marketplace. So right now we had, a ton. You look at this and say, okay, in May, that's why we started seeing so many new listings. But look at this line now. We're having less and less new product come to the market. But and so if we look at this and we say, okay, let's go back to 2019. Our line, in 2019, this is where we've had, again, very, less inventory coming in, and we had a good steady marketplace. Looking at homes for sale. So this is where we had, we had a spike in inventory, but now we're starting to see this go down. If we look back at 2019 and we look at September 2019, this line, looking at what happens in the fall, we're going to see this continue, which means there's going to be less listings coming out. And that's just going based on history. Looking at the number of sales, this line is starting to increase again. So yes, we had a lull between, the adjustment of high interest rates, but what's taking place now is we have less listings coming to the market based on the last graph. We're seeing an increase in sales. Again, back to supply and demand. We look at days on market, and the days on market absolutely has been increasing. But if we look back at 2019, pre-COVID, our days on market was always between 15 and 28 days. We're still within that realm. Absolutely. We're out of the pandemic issue of crazy marketplace, but we are still, based on stats, in a very good, strong, steady marketplace. Months of supply. This is showing that, yep, we had all those listings come in, lower sales, but now we have less listings happening. We have more sales happening. So now we're getting into where we'll see a little bit less. Sales are going to happen faster than what they were doing down here because there's going to be less supply. So what I look at, and let me just stop this. So looking at those graphs, what takes place is you have to look and say, yes, we had 2 years of crazy marketplace. Now we're talking about 20-25% pullback in market. Yes, but in your own backyard, you have to look, Places like outside the GTA, places, I'm sure, Brendan, in the Ottawa Valley area, you're seeing where prime real estate is still finding many people looking at it. I know, and I'm sure that they're, especially waterfront, I understand.
Well, yeah, and the other thing I've noticed out here, and I have a speculation as to why this is anything over 500,000 is sitting for a long time. And anything under 500,000, you should still slap a presentation date on it. Because there's still, I had a buyer about 3 weeks ago, still up against 17 competing offers. And I think that was because the home was priced at $299. And I think that those people didn't have a chance during COVID to even get their foot in the door, because anybody who could afford 400 to 500 out here was buying 2 to 3, fixing it up, and doing stuff like that. So that basically eliminated that bracket from even thinking about getting a home over the last 2 years. So now, and before the rates go up more, they want to get in and get their home right now. So that's why anything 500 or below is still moving out here.
Right. Okay. I also spoke to Peterborough. I spoke to North Bay. I spoke to Sudbury, and then I analyzed some of the others. There are certain pockets still where the GTA buyers are still going out of the GTA area and buying and still, looking at value. Okay. But in some of those communities where pricing, exactly what Brendan said, the pricing is going to determine the activity. Lower the price, the more activity you see. Okay, because one of the number of buyers that now, even though interest rates have come up, there are some buyers, because there may have been a little bit of a price adjustment, now are back into the marketplace. The idea of looking at the market as being totally dead is not there. There is activity. Price is definitely a factor in all the communities I talked with. If the valuation was higher, if the expectation was higher than where the value really is today, then there was little to no showings. Yet, if you were at the right competitive pricing, there's activity right away. Okay.
Can I make a comment about that?
Absolutely.
And I'm sorry, I just struggled for an hour to join the meeting. I had technical problems that Michelle thankfully helped me with. Thanks, Michelle. The same thing that that he was saying is happening here. Like the days of holding off offers are gone. It seems like every listing that I look at, it's price decrease, price decrease, like it's just one after another. I mean, people are still coming north, but I'm a tiny bit concerned because none of my listings are moving at all right now.
Okay, so a couple of things would be look at pricing, because pricing is a big factor, always is, always will be. And the thing to also understand is there is a timeline where we're seeing, as you can see by the charts, right? There's now a timeline where we're seeing the graphs starting to change. But your community may not, you may be 30 to 45 days behind the charts right now. Okay, because I know when I was talking to Clarence in Peterborough, some of the things he was experiencing with, the price isn't right, it's not selling. Buyers are now looking at putting offers conditional on sale of their property. Yeah, when I talked to Carl in Sudbury, he hadn't started, he just started to see that. So Sudbury is probably, 2 to 3 weeks behind what we're seeing, a little bit closer to the GTA. So, that's where you've got to look at your own community and say, okay, where are the driving forces? Well, the driving forces are, who are the buyers? How do you look at product that you can show value? And you really need to be able, if you're a listing agent, to educate the sellers on what was and what is. Okay, so that's where really important to spend the time as a listing agent to educate the sellers. And if you have a seller that is hesitant on looking at value today, this is where you have to go old school and really look at what is their motivation, what's their timeline. Okay, and if their timeline is they are interested in selling, but they have no immediate 30, 60, 90 day timeline to get out, but within 6 months from now, they're going to be doing something, then old school is now let's take that listing. Let's say, hey, that's great. I understand, work with them, because what we are seeing in certain areas is sellers are starting up here. in the first 3 weeks, their motivations, yeah, I don't need to sell, I don't need to sell, I don't need to sell. And then all of a sudden something happens and we see a price change, we see a price change, we see a price change, and it sells. So as a listing agent from a long time ago, I can tell you that I always looked at taking my listings for 6 months. And the reason it was 6 months is sellers would have their motivation as the listing was moving forward. Sellers' motivation was getting stronger, and they were getting educated on what was going on in the marketplace. Okay, but that, as a listing agent, I was quite content on setting up the fact that I'm going to work with these people. It's going to be a longer engagement, but I know I'm going, my format is I'm always communicating with them. I'm always showing them what's going on. And you as a listing agent decide on if that's the kind of listing you want to take or not take. Okay. But understanding that in today's marketplace, if you are a listing agent, you are going to come across sellers that are still up here. You really have to ask the questions on what's their motivation, because what you have to look at is how much inventory as a listing agent do you have on the shelf that consumers can buy? Okay. And if you don't have a listing inventory, then you really are then relying on leads coming from your database, which you always should. What you need to have in a consistent market, and that's what we're, if you look at a balanced marketplace where we're actually heading into, you need to have inventory. As a listing agent, I always tried to carry a minimum of 10 listings. Now, over the last 10 years, that's been impossible because the market, at least in our area, they were selling fast, which is a great problem. But in a balanced marketplace, you need to look at having inventory. And sometimes having that inventory that the consumer, the sellers are up here, you just have to realize, okay, I know eventually they're going to get to a motivated part and go. And you're going to get other sellers that are bang on, and that's the ones you're going to work on. But always think about having, as a listing agent, having inventory, because inventory drives leads, inventory drives success, inventory drives stories to tell. Okay, so as you go in, as we're seeing these graphs go into more of a balanced marketplace, that's where you got to look at it and say, as my business, what am I offering consumers? And in our line of business, it's inventory. Okay, just a thought, because I know, you know, listings as a discussion has really not been talked about over the last, definitely over the last 3 years, because there have been very few of them and they've been selling very fast. Okay. The other parts to look at is, as we move forward, is, let me just see if I can share my screen again. Let me just see if I can. Okay, everybody see this screen? National statistics?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. So what I wanted, this is from Korea. This is available for us as members of Korea to use. And this just came out September 15th. Okay. So when Jake was talking about, you know, posting information, absolutely, you know, realtyexecutives.com blog has lots of information. This is another area in Korea that you can utilize. Korea Cafe, Korea Stats are always really, really good. I used them when I was, you know, full-time realtor, using them as stories, sending them to individuals. But what I want to show you is really talking about why I understand what we're seeing in the marketplace. Residential sales activity. July, August, okay? So we look at the last few months across Canada, okay? Obviously, if we look at, this is the start of the pandemic. And then coming out of the, obviously, 2020 second half and all the way through the pandemic, huge sales, low inventory, okay? And then we start seeing an adjustment because of interest rates. We get buyers, consumers being taken out of the marketplace, but we still see activity. Now, if we look at this activity here, and we go back, and you can look back as far as 2017, 2018, we are a little bit below, and in some cases, very similar to the marketplace of 2019, 2018. So when I look at that, and I look at the last little bit, remember those charts that we looked at? When we started seeing just a little bit where we're anticipating there's going to be less listings, but we see where the average price is starting to level out. This is what you have to look at and say, where is the marketplace going? People are saying, are we going to crash the marketplace? No, because if you look at this chart here and say, yep, we definitely had in the second quarter where the market really started to adjust, new listings coming into Canada. Well, this is declining. And this, as we looked at the charts before, this is going to continue to decline a little bit. But it falls right in line with what we had 2018 in 2018, 2019. Now look at exactly what this is. This is sales to new listing ratios. Okay. So absolutely, during the pandemic, we had where the sales were crazy, inventory was low. Now we're starting to see where we're starting to see an increase in sales, but we also have the listings. But if you follow this line across, it is still well below 2017, 2018. So even if this line continues up, which we anticipate next spring, I anticipate we're going to see more listings come out as we normally would in a spring of 2023. We still have lots of area to still stay within a balanced market. So it's not like it's going to shoot way up here where we're going to have all these listings and no buyers. I do not see it. History doesn't show it. And the stats show that this may continue a little bit, but definitely not going to be where it's going to be a flooded marketplace. The actual residential price, okay? So we have the average has dropped, but your home price index, right? Housing price index is really, we're seeing an adjustment. But if you look back at 2019, pre-COVID, we are here, 2018, 2019, 2016, 2017. Like if we look at this line here, that was a very strong, steady marketplace. Even if this line drops a little bit more, which I anticipate it might just for a little bit, but it's going to be leveling off. For it to get down to here, this was still a strong market. And, so this is where we have to look at history and say, for those that have been in the business a long time, if you even look back to, 2005, this is the market where we all of a sudden see average prices went up, activity, but this was all just steady. Okay, so yes, even when we come out of this line may come down a little bit, but it's gradually going to start making its way flatlining like this. Average price. Okay, so if we look at the average price just from a year ago, all of Canada, yeah, it's off a little bit, but there's certain areas of Canada, especially Quebec East, that have shown strong appreciation year over year, even with the interest rate adjustments. Okay. So the reason I wanted to show you those graphs is, one, utilize them in your presentations, okay? Because they are available and they tell a story. You can actually look at that. And just as Jake was mentioning in his presentation and Maya in hers, you become the professional. You're the one that is sharing information, but you're not just posting it. You're talking about why you see this happening, and you can use history and information as a professional realtor to tell that story, right? To get people engaged, to get, why is someone who is a consumer going to reach out to you versus somebody else who's just posting stats? Because you're interpreting the stats. You're giving your professional opinion on, this is why, look at history, look at where we are at. So based on that information, I did a whole bunch of research from, the Desjardins economists, the CIBC economists. And so interesting enough, I'm just going to highlight some of their comments for you, okay? Economic Studies has revised its forecast for the province's housing market and now expects home prices to fall 24% from their February 2022 peak by the end of 2023. So they anticipate we'll gradually see, and we've already seen it. Now, this is the interesting part. Same paragraph, despite the significant correction, Desjardins Economic Studies still expects Ontario home prices to end 2023 roughly 15% higher than they were at the start of the pandemic. So if I'm a realtor and I want to get that info, that is great information. And that is basically just Desjardins Economic Study that was done. Even though we're seeing a correction, and they're talking about, they when they went into this, they were saying 18 to 24 months. Well, at the end of 2023, they've already predicted that the average sale price is going to be higher than it was pre-pandemic. To me, that's a great story. And that's something that if you look at the history of the graphs, absolutely, we anticipate that, yeah, it's come down, but history shows it will go back up. Okay, that's one comment. Here's the other interesting part, supply and demand. Okay, remember supply and demand. Rising borrowing costs and soaring material prices are also leading builders and buyers to press the pause on new projects. Okay. Although construction remains strong in the first half of the year, Desjardins says new builds are poised to drop nearly 20% in 2022, 30% in 2023. So we already have a shortage of inventory. We did see some increase. Now we have builders that are taking projects, are not going to bring projects out to release them. They're going to put them on the shelf because of higher costs and the market change. So what does that tell you? Where is the supply increase going to come in to change it from a balanced marketplace to strictly a buyer's market? I don't see it. Inventory levels in major Canadian real estate markets have been dwindling over the past decade. Okay, this is another report. And over the past decade, with active listings in July, so just this July, running below the 10-year average in almost every market surveyed based on the Canadian Real Estate Association. So looking at a 10-year average listings, this July, when we had a big spike in listings, is below the 10-year average. Supply and demand. Okay. So here is another interesting part. Okay. According to Statistics Canada, the nation has seen significant double-digit population growth between 2006 and 2021. Okay. So you look at that chart that I showed you from, the average sale price from 2005, gradually made its way up. Well, obviously because we had a significant double-digit population growth. And that is poised to increase further with Canada's commitment to welcome 1.2 million immigrants into the country between 2021 and 2023. Okay. Combined with growth in new international students, the strategy is aimed at propelling economic growth and reducing labor shortages. However, in the context of the Canadian real estate inventory, the increase in newcomers combined with new household formation overall is expected to intensify the inventory shortfall further, especially in the major urban markets of Vancouver and Toronto. Supply and demand. It's simple as that. So even though we had higher interest rates, the last 2 years, we've had a limitation on immigration. And if you look at the Canadian Real Estate Association and Canada as a country, immigration is one of the strongest suits we have, where we always look at having strong immigration, which brings workforces, which brings buyers, which brings people into communities. Okay. So if we look at that, well, now we look at 1.2 million, plus we have international students and students as a whole coming back into our communities. One of the things we have seen is a spike in rental rates, right? In all communities. So if anybody, outside the GTA, I don't, Brendan, if you have see any rentals in your community, but I know when I was talking to Carl in Sudbury, rents there have risen. I know Clarence, talking with you in Peterborough, you've seen where rents, people trying to find places to rent, has risen. And the reason is you have twofold. You have students that are coming in, you have who weren't there before over the last few years. You have people that are putting on themselves on hold about buying. So they've now looked at getting into the rental market. And so you also, the issue now, if you look at the marketplace, is you now have investors that were thinking of dumping their properties are now going around, wait a minute, if I can get an extra $400 or $500 a month, I'm going to hang on to my rental property. So that's why we're starting to see some of the listing inventory not come to the market. Okay. So if we look at supply and demand, it is, how many buyers do we have? How much supply do we have? That's going to tell us where the market's going. Here's another information for you. Affordable, accessible housing depends on supply. That's what we've been talking about. That's what drives our marketplace. A recent report from Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation concluded that the country needs to build 3.5 million new homes by 2030 to tackle the affordability issue. Yet Canada is only averaging 200 to 300,000 new builds per year. New construction is not going to be our supply reason that it's going to be changed dramatically. They're not going to be able to keep building anywhere near where they need to be able to get to affordable, stable housing. So what does that mean? It means that supply and demand, right? Supply and demand. So one of the things to look at is current market realities, which we touched upon, have upended the economic viability of many developments, causing new residential projects to be canceled or put on hold. Yet they're talking about we need to build this massive number of units, yet because of high borrowing costs and the cost of material, there are builders that are putting projects on hold in all communities. So supply and demand is not going to change. Okay. So one of the things to look at is they're talking about, this is just an example. Now this is in the more the GTA area. but they were projecting approximately 35,000 new condominium units were anticipated to launch pre-construction sale in the GTA in 2022. Okay. In the first half of the year, close to 16,000 units launched. Okay, less than 10,000 than they expected. And they anticipate that'll be 10,000 less next year as well. So even though they talk about saying that they want this influx of new inventories coming, all these new builds, it's not happening. They're talking about where there's going to be, sellers are going to be putting their places on the market. That's not happening because if you look at some of the stats in all the communities, people are staying in their houses longer, right? They are staying in their houses longer. You're looking at people who are saying, I'm going to stay in my house, even if I have to get someone to come in and cut the grass, come in and, shovel for me. Where before they would look at saying, okay, I'm going to sell and move somewhere else. People are trying to stay in their houses longer. So those are not coming to the marketplace. Investors now have where their interest rate, their rental rates have increased. They've decided they're going to hang on to their properties. And we're actually starting to see where there are some investors coming back into the marketplace, looking at buying property. Okay. So the things to look at that, when we talk about hearing this marketplace is going to, change dramatically, we're going to see a huge downturn. Yeah, we're going to see an adjustment. Yeah, we're going to see an adjustment on where we went crazy marketplace. We have a pullback. Absolutely. I can tell you the same thing happened in 1990. For anybody that was in the marketplace, March happened to be the same month. March 1990, the market peaked, stopped, and did this. And it did this for 2.5 years, and all of a sudden started doing this. So the people that bought in that 89, 90, their valuation was lower than what they purchased at. By 1997, their valuations were back up. Today, they're over double. So if I'm going to be telling a story to a consumer about why buy now, I'd be using that history, go back and get charts, and just even the one I showed you, 2005, and just talk about, hey, we've seen this market before. This isn't new. And this is what's happened. Real estate is a long-term investment. And right now you have a couple good things. Yeah, the interest rates are higher than they used to be. Still relatively low historically, okay? You have people that are looking at renting properties. So as an investor, you've now got a little bit of an adjustment in price pullback. You've got higher interest rates. I'd be doing a blog, I'd be doing an ad, I'd be doing posting about what a great way to try and promote that, because most agents aren't doing that, right? But when you have the information, you have the stats, you can tell the story, you can get engagement, okay? You have to work, you have to do exactly what Maya said about planning your day. Always pick, here are the 3 things I've got to get done today, right? And I know even people on the screen where I've talked with you, what does your weekly planner look like? What does your weekly day look like? And I know there's A, B's, and C's, right? A's get done first. Get the A's done first. Well, some of that needs to be prospecting, which is, I don't care how you do it, but you got to have some of that in there, okay? You've got to look at how can I engage the consumer different than everybody else? Exactly what Jake was talking about. Using some of these tools, but you have to plan it in your daily activities on, this is what I'm going to do. And it's important that absolutely, you can work 24/7 in this business. You do not need to, okay? You do not have to. You just have to do the important things first. And the important things that I always say are first are, what are the activities that are going to get me engagement with somebody who can buy or sell real estate? That should be your #1 priority. and make sure you have a set target on what you're going to do, how you're going to do it, daily, weekly, monthly, yearly. Set it out, work your plan. And this marketplace that's all adjusting and we're getting all kinds of different stories and what's going to happen. Look at the charts, look at history, understand that if you do the things you need to be doing to work, and I'm definitely here, Michelle, myself, Jake, anybody on this screen, anybody in Realty Executives, you want to reach out and just talk about setting up a plan for you, we're here to do that. Because I want you to understand, real estate is a great business. You can do very well in it. You plan to do it. You plan daily activities. The rest will take care of itself. Okay? The market is not going to stall. It has pulled back, which is good for us because it's going to avoid avoids a huge crash. Okay? We just now are getting to the point where you looked at those graphs where we have new people coming into the marketplace that are accepting the new conditions. You just need to be able to explain those new conditions, understand them, and work within those, and you will have a very successful business. So I wanted to share that with everybody. Thoughts, questions, love to hear from anybody that, if you see something different, what's happening in your own backyard, or from anybody that's gone through this before.
I'm enjoying the break.
Well, yeah, but I'm sure you're still doing your daily activities though, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Scott, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. A couple of things I put down. I agree with most of your comments. I mean, there are some cracks in the industry. I mean, I brought to your attention that builder in, I think it was Burlington or something, who canceled a whole bunch of contracts and literally tried to double the price of condos. I think it was called ADI or something like that, ADI. So, you've been in it since the 80s. I started in the late 80s. Well, these are when the cracks start to show as rates start to rise. But BMO yesterday also said, home buyers beware. We're somewhat in a false marketplace because what's driving the market now is the lending commitments that people have got, the 90, 120 days. But when those expire, the new buyers will be exposed to the new rates. So they feel that there'll be a correction as the new rates implement themselves. Because they're not in place yet. They're still using the old rates. So, here we are, 1st of October, effectively. This would pretty much take us into the end of January with 120-day commitments, between now and then, it's highly likely we will have 2 more rate increases. So, we're going to have a bit of a fall off a cliff when the commitments expire, and that's why people are buying, because they're trying to spend their commitments. And it won't happen overnight, but you're going to be phasing in these new rates as well. So, these they're not meant as negative comments. They're just observations more than anything else. And I think that, one of the things you want to be saying to our buyers these days is get a commitment now. Right away, guys, because a week from now you might have another 3/4 of a point in there. Anyway, that's what I had to say.
Yeah, and absolutely, the interest rates are always going to be a factor, and that's why if we looked at those charts, we anticipate there still might be a little bit of, there'll be a little this month, maybe, the average price is up. Next month it might be down a little bit. So we anticipate those charts are still going to fluctuate on a monthly basis, and that'll be influx of which buyers are where because of the financing. But that is always going to wash out itself because there's no huge increase in supply.
Right.
Okay.
One other thing that an observation I'm making is that for the first time in many, many years, we're seeing VTBs come back into the marketplace. People need to sell. And for whatever the reasons are, I mean, I did one last week and, I thought the buyer said, well, I can't sell my house, but I'll buy it if I get a VTB. I went to the owners and sure enough, I never in my wildest dreams thought they'd accept. The lady's 97 years old.
Wow.
Taking a $580,000 VTB.
Yeah, but she's gonna get more with the VTB than she's gonna get at the bank.
Well, yeah, and she's in a nursing home and her place is sitting empty and she's paying taxes and maintenance.
Yeah.
So, do a reversal of 1,500 a month to 2,000 a month, like reverse the 15, but add 2,000 income.
And again, that's where reaching out to your financial, partners that you deal with is really important. Understanding the financial options, right? And again, for anyone that hasn't been in the business for a longer period of time, where we were doing vendor takebacks and selling discount mortgages and doing that kind of stuff because we didn't have to, because the rates. And Jim, I agree, that's going to be there for this window of shifting, let's call it, of the interest rate shift. And that's why they're saying, late 2022, 2023 is really that balancing act of where are we going to get to, but supply and demand is the limited supply is still going to keep us on that even keel. And why they anticipate by the end of 2023, we're still going to be 15% higher than the prices were in 2019.
One last comment. I experienced this with that deal. It's a very quick close, but there was literally, I won't say there was nobody, but the buyers had almost impossible time to get insurance on the property because of the VTB.
Oh.
The lenders don't like VTBs.
Never heard
Not
that.
the lenders, the insurers.
Julia, you had a comment?
I did. I was talking to a lender because I've got a couple buyers that are just really holding off watching rates, and I've been sending them information on the rates. Watch changes and always ahead of that. So I think BMO their fixed rate yet.
Your video just.
And that's in anticipation of the next increase. The other thing is, as my one lender told me, the lenders are not going to continuously renew your hold. Like they'll do it for a while, but then they tire of you, and then all of a sudden you don't get those rates anymore that you were holding. So you have to get your buyer to be a little realistic in what the real world is doing in terms of when the banks respond to interest rates going up and how long they can have a rate hold. They're not going to have a rate hold for a year.
Yeah. Good. Any other comments, questions, thoughts?
I'd like to ask Jim, the vendor take back that you just did, what interest rate did you negotiate for that?
We ended up at 4% interest only.
Okay. Okay.
And I would think that a seller could do much better. Not much better. They could do better. But in this case, the seller went, I'm going to put the money in the bank anyway, and I'm be lucky if I get 4% at the bank. So I'm happy to take it and get out from underneath the expense of this property. So.
Okay. That's fair. Thank you for sharing, because I'm just negotiating a vendor take back myself. And I was just curious what your opinion was on that.
Yeah, ours was 2 years interest only. And the seller, or let me rephrase that, the buyer has been attempting to sell their home for 4 months now. And they've probably had, well, I know last time I spoke to them, they had over 51 showings and still no buyers.
All right, my situation's a tiny bit different, but I do definitely appreciate hearing that.
No problem.
Great. Any other questions before we wrap up? And Well, I'm going to leave the last few words for Michelle, who organized this, but I want to thank her for putting this together. Jake, for your time, Maya for her time. And we're going to start doing more of these where we're going to do specific, for instance, the next one, we're going to talk about the advertising side and really dive into that kind of information. Is that something that everybody would like to see happening more?
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Well, Michelle, if you want to just give the ending words, and thank you, by the way, for organizing this.
Thanks, Michelle.
I love doing this stuff. I think it's great that we get everyone from different areas, different communities. We share like this. I think this is great. I'm so looking forward to doing more of these. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time to join today. Thank you to our speakers. In my planner, I'm writing things down. But yeah, just thank you guys, and we'll see you soon.
Awesome.
Good job.
Everybody.
Thanks,
Take
guys.
care, everybody.
Bye, everyone.